So I hope they're not getting tired of hearing from us.
I know, right? This is the most we've talked on Facebook Live in a long time. We're going to be starting in a few minutes. We're just kind of waiting for folks to join us on Facebook. So just hang out. Facebook likes you to wait a minute or two before you actually start.
But they can chat with us, right? And let us know that they're here.
Yeah, let us know you're here. If you are here, just post something in the chat box and say you're listening in, or give us a high five. Or so Victoria's hello from San Francisco. Awesome.
Hey, Victoria. We're actually in California, Southern California.
Where it's raining, by the way.
I guess we're heading east today.
There's
Hey, Dee Dee.
All the West Coast people are on. We see Posh Paws, Ray Bauman, Nicole Bennett. Nice.
Oh, never tired of hearing from us. That's nice, Angela. Thank you.
Yay. That's good because we've been on Facebook Live a lot. And we have like 4 more things this week. So hopefully you won't get tired of hearing about us. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started. Oh, there's Gray and from South Carolina, South Carolina. That's right. Alex McKinnon, one of our favorite vendors, is with us.
Alex.
I just like to talk to people. Okay, I guess we should get started though. All right, so this is I think our 4th Facebook Live. We're trying to really help all of you out there who are facing the trials and tribulations of coronavirus, and it is impacting everybody. Obviously, it's impacting the dog gurus, it's impacting pet care businesses, it's impacting restaurants, and bars are now closing. I was even telling our team this morning, because I'm a big RVer, I thought, well, self-isolation, I'll just go out in my RV and that'll be awesome. And even RV parks are closing and campgrounds are closing. So, I mean, this is across the board hitting everybody around the world, literally. So we wanted to get on here and just try to help you focus on some positives, which may be hard to do right now. But interestingly, Susan and I just spent the weekend with a coaching team that coaches us. And one of the things we're talking about is really the effect of using a crisis to your advantage. And I know there's a certain amount of like, how can we possibly do that? Feelings that are out there. But I also know that if you look at history, there's a ton of people who used a crisis to succeed. So we really want to focus on that. There was also a study done, and we'll post this on our Facebook page. I actually sent it to our Profit Network members earlier. I think it was a couple of days, maybe it was yesterday, about the words you choose to use during this time have a distinct impact on how you're going to succeed through this and lead through this. So really paying attention to what you're saying. And I do know that this is a bad time. I mean, I get it. The Dog Gurus is facing it. Everybody's facing it. But we have to figure out a way to lead our teams through this and lead your business through this and become really, really creative. So I'm going to post that later, that article about how your words affect. And they did a study, and it's kind of was proven that the words are going to make an effect on what happens to you. So the best piece of advice I would say is, and this was in the article as well, is try to avoid social media and avoid the news as much as possible. Obviously, we need to get information, but if you're on that all day long, I'm just going to tell you that's going to have a negative impact on what's going on with your psyche. So this is the opportunity. We're going to try to give you as many ideas as we can for how to recover from some of the losses. I know everybody's getting losses. They're getting cancellations because nobody can travel. And we want to encourage you to get your team together, because your team may have some amazing ideas for you. And let's face it, it's in their best interest to help you work your way through this and recover from some of those losses. So they may become really creative as well. If you're not that creative, get your team around you and say, okay, let's look for some creative solutions for managing through this. But what we're going to specifically talk about today is sort of dealing with the financial aspect of it and some things you can do with your business. So I'll throw that over to Susan, and you can kind of kick us off with that.
Right. I always feel better in times like this if I'm doing something and taking action, because you can feel like a victim, but you don't have to. So yeah, things are going to stink for a while and there are losses, but people are going to travel again and we're going to have revenue and be busy. So really what we need to do is plan for this interim. How do you get through? And for a lot of us, that means we really need to be managing our cash flow and being smart and taking advantage of opportunities that may be out there. So one of the very first things you need to be doing as far as taking action, if you haven't done this, this can be a project you can assign to one of your staff, is go back through and document every cancellation and how much revenue that was and the reason of the cancellation. Because in past, there has been federal assistance available for lost revenue. However, you have to have documentation to back it up. So even if your POS system is not giving you a report, then make an Excel list of, every cancellation and the revenue tied to that, the number of days, the family name. People are going to want that documentation. So be prepared.
Yeah, and that actually came from one of our Profit Network members who has been in the industry long enough. Susan and I both went through a recession with our pet care facility. So although things look horrible, I mean, I can tell you the industry will recover from this. But one of our Profit Network members said last time there was a bailout opportunity, she was not able to get any of it because she didn't have any documentation. So obviously, with anything with the government, it's going to be, you have to have some proof of what you're requesting. So that tracking system, whatever that is, an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, is going to become really important if that becomes an opportunity. So definitely start tracking that stuff.
So the next thing to know, because you had revenue plans, so for those of you who had a budget, this is a great time to go in and do some updates. This is one of those things that when events change and it's going to be different, go in and change your budget. If you don't have a budget, you can look at, I would probably be looking at the next 3 months. I really think by summer, people are going to be wanting to use those travel vouchers. And I think maybe the advantage of this being so severe right now about shutting down is it's going to allow for a quicker recovery. So I would be looking at this month, April and May. Okay, my revenue is down. How much do I think my revenue is going to be down? And actually start putting numbers on paper, so that okay, if my shortfall for revenue is $12,000, how am I going to cash flow that over the next few months or delay payments? And that's the things we're going to be talking about today. But the first thing you want to know is how big is the piece of pie that you have got to be able to recover and determine how to do cash flow. And we're going to talk about some of it. It may be you're just delaying payments. Some of it may be finding new creative ways to get revenue now, or planning on hitting the ground running and having more revenue in the future. So the key thing would be able to cover your cash flow. So knowing your numbers is going to be the first step. And then I would be looking at your fixed cost and seeing if there's anything that, as far as fixed costs, can be lower. And also then on variable costs, because typically what happens with the variable cost, when the dogs go down, the costs go down. And I know there's probably a point for some of you where your payroll dollars can't go down any further. And Robin's going to talk about some things related to that as well. But knowing exactly how much cash flow do you have to have is going to be the first step. And then Robin's going to talk about some ideas of how maybe you can make your cash flow go farther by delaying some expenses or lowering them.
Yeah, so to jump back to what you were talking about earlier with tracking the losses, Susan, because Jacqueline just said, what exactly is the information needed?
We don't know, but
yeah. So that's one of those, what was asked in the past has been the client information. I would collect as much information as possible. So I would say the client information, on the name, phone number, whatever, what their original booking was, like what they were going to do with you. So let's say they had booked a 3-day stay, and then the reason for cancellation. So if you can find that out, which 90% of people are going to say the reason for cancellation is because I can no longer fly overseas, or, I'm nervous about traveling or whatever. So that reason for cancellation most of the time is going to be because of the pandemic that we're experiencing. But as much information as you can collect, if the government offers those kind of bailout programs, you're going to be ahead of the game in terms of having that information. So that's what we were just talking about in terms of just tracking information. We have several people. April Cox said, I started tracking last week, so that's awesome. So really just looking at making sure you understand where your losses are. So then are you done with that, Susan? I just jumped in to answer that question.
Yeah, go right ahead, and then I'll circle back.
Okay. So in terms of knowing your numbers, and believe us, we have, my husband's actually our CFO. He just updated our budget. It's not looking good. So we get that. But if you have a budget, this is where your budget really becomes an amazing tool, because you can update it and right away see, might be depressing, but you can see exactly where you are. And I have a saying that I copied from a friend a long time ago that says, facts are our friends. Facts aren't necessarily the greatest things in the world. They might depress us, but facts are our friends. So you need to understand exactly what your losses are so that you can take actionable steps to say, okay, how do I make up this amount of money? And then we're going to talk later, probably tomorrow on a Facebook Live, of actually how to generate revenue. But for right now, we want to talk about some other ways that you could potentially help with some of those losses. So one idea is look at your supply dealers who are sending you stuff. Maybe you can get better terms with them right now. If you have cleaning agents or whatever, which you're obviously still using right now, is there a way to contact them and get better terms? Can you ask them about different interest rates or different payment plans, or, buy now and pay in 6 months, or not 6 months, 3 months? Call those people and get on the phone and start seeing if you can negotiate some better terms with some of those dealers that are sending you stuff on a recurring basis. Obviously, if you don't need it, then you can turn it off. But there's a lot of stuff you're still going to need just to operate your facility, even if you have a reduction in dogs. The second thing is credit card rates. If you're putting stuff on credit cards, can you negotiate the rates with the credit card company, or can you defer payments to the credit card company? Again, worth a phone call. If you have good credit and if you typically pay your credit card off, or make the payments in a timely manner, then your credit card company may be very well willing to work with you on that. So make those phone calls and figure out what you might be able to do to negotiate those rates to get lower payments, or again, some kind of deferred payments. Looking at your utilities, can you call the utility company and again get a different payment plan? Some places will allow you to go on a monthly recurring set amount that they just make equal, so you can plan for your utility costs. And some places may allow you to do partial payments. Some places may allow you to defer payments. But again, it's worth a phone call to your to your utility companies, because you are going to need to still have utilities on at your facility for the most part. So you really want to be looking at that as well. And then the other challenging situation is talking with your staff about scheduling. So obviously, number one, cut any kind of overtime. You may have to be cutting staff completely. And how are you going to do that? So looking at, are you going to reduce your hours? Maybe that's a way to cut payroll, by just reducing hours. Maybe some of your staff will voluntarily offer to stay home and not work, so that other staff can work. It depends on who is working for you. I mean, you may have some people I had people at my facility that this was a second job they just were doing to get out of the house. And then I had other people that this was the job they relied on for 100% of their, home bills and their living. So if you have people who are not necessarily relying on the money to feed their family, they might be willing to say, you know what, I'll just stay home and other people can get my hours or whatever. So look at that. If you do have to cut hours, look at how you're doing that. Maybe you're going to share the load and everybody gets a few hours cut. Maybe you're going to just cut everybody and you're going to do all the work. But these conversations have to happen between your management team, and then you need to bring your staff in on it, because if you haven't already talked to them, they're gonna be stressing out. So you need to lead through this whole situation to talk to your staff about what potentially can happen. And again, make sure that they're aware of the potential impact to them. If you are going to keep the staff, adjusting their schedules for maximum efficiency. So where can you cut hours and still have staff working, but not necessarily be overpaying? That's something to look at. And I'm going to go to an email real quick that Gray Moore actually sent me right before this event. And Gray's on the call. So Gray, thank you so much for sending this. So she had a couple ideas, which were, creating days to be open only to streamline the staff. So again, looking at those hours, maybe you're going to just schedule different hours than you would normally schedule. You want to make sure that, so she has a situation where like team A would work on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays and be closed on the other days. And that would allow two things. One is it allows you to control your shifts. So if someone does get infected, you have a little bit better understanding of who might have been in contact with them, but it also allows you to reduce hours in a way that might help your staff to understand they still get paid, but they're not getting paid as much. She had be closed longer in the middle of the day. So that's, a great opportunity, especially for those that do some kind of nap time in the middle of the day. Maybe you just extend that so you have fewer staff on at that point. Opening with fewer staff, closing with fewer staff. I've heard of some facilities that are just going to be open like 4 hours a day. And obviously, if you have dogs there, you have to have limited staff to take care of the dogs. But if you have no dogs, then, you don't need to be open those hours. So it really is going to look at that. So really just creating that process for what you're going to do with your team. And if you are going to be keeping your staff, there's things they can do, even if you don't have all the dogs there. And so I think we're going to talk about that later. So I'm going to let us go back to Susan to talk about cash flow. And I'm going to go through the questions and see if there's any questions there as well.
All right. And one thing you want to do is if you are reducing hours, quantify that. Even if you use an average wage that you pay, that would include benefits. So you could say, for $12 an hour, if I reduce 10 hours a week, this is X amount back towards my cash flow shortage. And I think you're going to gain confidence that this is doable. So all of these steps, quantify how is that coming to help your cash flow. And then you're going to feel like you're taking action and you're empowered and you know how much more money you need to go find. So one thing in looking at your cash flow, Robin had some great tips there. I know someone did say that they had emailed their landlord and they were ignored. This is a time for phone calls. I wouldn't be relying on email because your landlord is going to want their rent, and it is going to be in everyone's best interest to work with you. The other thing you can do is reach out to your bank. If you have a loan where you're paying interest and principal, I did this at Urban Tales. I've been through the short cash flow. As Robin said, we went through the recession. I called my bank. They will probably let you do interest only for a while. So you still have to pay the interest amount, but you don't have to pay the principal. So again, that's money that can go towards weathering these few months before things recover. Now, that can take some time. So again, I'd be on the phone and calling. You may have to fill out a form to formally request it. The one thing that I would not pay, so the thing that's really important to pay are your taxes, especially those payroll taxes. Now, if you're at a position to where you're just extremely short of cash and it's going to be late or you're not going to be able to pay, I would call and talk to them because they will put you on a payment plan as well. These vendors are also hurting. And so for them, a little bit of money is better than no money. They don't want you to just stop. So the big thing here is you do have to get on the phone and you have to communicate. And it's not going to surprise anybody when you call. Trust me, your utility companies, your banks, they are all preparing for this because they know every business is being hit hard. Now, if you are doing deposits and are getting some reservations, because there will be people that are still wanting to support local business, you may take a bigger deposit for now because you need the cash flow. If you are doing any kind of payment options, you might want to do shorter terms. And you may even want to give an incentive if someone decides to like pay in full or pay a package in advance. You might run a special. I know a ticket agency, the Houston Rodeo, canceled last week, and one of the ticket people was saying, if you don't want a refund and you leave a credit with us, we'll give you 120% of that ticket value as a credit. So maybe you want to do a special on packages and say, if you buy a package now or a gift certificate to our business for $100, you'll get $120 in services as a way just to get some more revenue in. I had a membership program, and sometimes in February I needed cash. And so I would offer an early renewal, renew your membership this month, and I gave you an incentive or a special if you would go ahead and renew early. Again, it's getting creative, as Robin said, and the key thing is knowing how much money are you wanting to raise, either through cost reductions, reduced payments, or more revenue. And you're going to get excited as you see yourself able to come up and find and get close to that number, or maybe even exceed it.
So we had one person ask if this video is going to be available later. And yeah, it's because it's Facebook Live, it'll actually be on our Facebook page anytime. But we also have created a free resource page at the Dog Gurus. So if you go to thedoggurus.com/COVID-19, that will take you to a page where we're trying to compile as many helpful resources as possible for free. So the Facebook links are also there for all of the Facebook Live videos that we've done and that we will continue to do. So, but yeah, it's hard to watch while you're trying to homeschool. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so the other thing we want to talk about now is for your staff. If you are going to keep your staff, and these are some things that people can do at home as well as on site. But if you're going to keep your staff, you need to make sure they stay busy. And this is the greatest time ever to get all those things done that we always hear you don't have time to do. So get your staff busy and get ready, because you want to get everything in place so that when this crisis ends and people start traveling again, you can hit the ground running. This is the time really to prepare for 2 months from now, and hopefully it won't be that long, but this is the time. The minute things start looking better, you need to have emails ready that you can send out to say, hey, welcome back. You know, your deposit's still sitting here. You want to book a reservation. So lots and lots of stuff that your staff can do. Some creative marketing material for the summer, just to keep them understanding that you're still out there. You're still there to help them. Start anticipating and visualizing all those clients coming back and what you need to tell them. Start writing those emails now, and your staff can help you with some of that. If you have daycare, or you have an opportunity where people are still bringing their dogs, and I would still encourage that. I would be encouraging, if you don't have daycare, this is a really good time to start doing some daycare. Get your clients to come in. Even if you don't do play groups, you're just offering your clients an opportunity to bring their dog and do individual play with them, or bring their dog and do an activity with them. Because let's be honest, if people are home with their dogs and they're not working because they're home, and now their dogs are home, they're not used to that either. And if you're trying to work from home, your dog could be a distraction. So maybe you don't have time to take your dog for a walk. They might still want a service where their dog can get some exercise. So offer that. Offer, write copy so that you can do those welcome back parties during the summer, or during the next 2 months when people are staying at home. You might want to offer those. Your dog, you can't go on vacation, but your dog can. An email that encourages them to bring their dog in for some kind of an activity. And again, if you don't have daycare, then don't necessarily do a full day daycare. Just do some small group activities or some enrichment or some tricks. So bring that dog in and just do something one-on-one with them. But write those emails, start writing those emails, and think about those opportunities where you could potentially bring in revenue. Write emails now that you can send clients to remind them about booking and how important it is. And this, again, if you're offering gift certificates now, like Susan said, maybe that gift certificate's worth a little bit more so that you can get the cash flow. Write the email that you're going to send in a couple months to say, hey, remember you bought that gift certificate. When would you like us to book? And I would write those in a way that says, we're booking fast because I think that's what's going to happen. As soon as this is over, people are going to want to start getting back to their lives and getting back with their travel. So write those. You just want to make sure that you're ahead of this so that when things get better, and they will, that's not the time to be writing it. Do it all now. And again, it's an opportunity for your team to get involved and potentially keep them doing something that's profitable for you, that will be profitable for you. This is also the time to all those educational, things that you always sign up for. I've started to say, okay, this is the time I need to do all those courses that I paid for and have never had time because I never have time to watch those. I'm now starting to educate myself. So this is a great time to watch all those educational materials or use those educational resources that you have. If your staff hasn't been trained, this is the time to train them. I know you're probably thinking, there's no reason for my staff to train because they're not doing anything. But again, if you train your staff now, all of the pre-summer training, which is what we typically promote in May before the busy June season, do that now. And again, they can do that from home. And maybe you don't pay them the same salary. You have to check your labor laws because usually you have to pay them at least minimum wage, but maybe you pay them a lower rate, but it's at least they're still able to get paid something to be at home and to do some educational programs. So lots of ideas just in terms of helping you to get ready and to make the most out of this very, very slow time.
Right.
So,
and I saw some questions. Yeah, there's some great chat and questions going through. Someone asked about dropping, reviews, services, and SEO. I would not drop marketing. I would look at some of these other things first because you want to stay top of mind and be where new people can find you. I mean, everybody needs to know what they can afford for their budget. That's why putting numbers around some of these other things is better. Thoughts on getting a loan? I think if you're going to need a loan, get one if you can. This is where when this passes, it's a time to kind of look at what do I need to do going forward, to have line of credit and stuff available so I don't get caught off guard. But right now, Kiva is doing some small loans to U.S. businesses. I'm sure there's a Kiva equivalent in Canada and other places. Some communities may be doing that. So definitely, if you seriously have a cash flow shortage, be looking in your community and finding out what is available. If you haven't done a budget and you have the time, the budget, and again, as Robin said, dealing with facts and having numbers paints the picture so you can make good decisions. But there would be some things that you don't want to cut, things that are going to be expensive down the road as far as hurting you and getting this revenue recovery or in having trained staff that can provide great care quality. So I think being smart about utilities and deferring payments is the better step to go. So you might want to go through your P&L and look at your line items and kind of rate them as far as how important is this going to be to me as far as rebuilding my revenue for the future and ensuring I can take great care of pets. And so that those would be the last things you would want to cut or reduce. But getting a budget done will really help. And the tool that's available to our members in Growth Intensive and Profit Network, and you can buy it on our page, our budget tool actually has a cash flow predictor page that will help you take your profit and loss and convert it to cash flow. And you can also change your quantities and actually see if it's, low quantities for 6 more weeks, 8 weeks, where's my shortfall, exactly how much is it? And then you can go in, and if you negotiate with an interest-only loan, pull that principal out, and the tool will tell you exactly where you're at as far as your cash flow. If you don't have that, and I can tell you, I did this with Urban Tail sometimes, I would look at my bank balance and know what payments or automatic payments I have scheduled coming up. And I would look at what money comes in, and I would just manually track. And at that time, I was mailing checks. So some checks got mailed a little bit later. And I was really tight sometimes working my cash flow. But log everything, know when things are being paid. And again, you want to pay your taxes and things that's going to have stiff penalties because you don't want to be dealing with those down the road. And I do think it is important to ensure that you're going to be the center that isn't cutting your training on your staff and care quality. And I would talk about that. If you're keeping your team on, go on to Facebook that these trained people are important to your staff members. They're going to be here when you get back. We're going to use this time to do extra training and be ready for you. Just really look at your numbers and make sure that the staff you're keeping you can afford, or you're having the right number of hours, and really be watching your hours. Tomorrow we are going to be doing a Facebook Live with Todd Newton, who is runs a PEO. So if you have labor questions and reducing hour questions, definitely come to that one tomorrow, and we'll let Todd help us that. And, Robin and I are always telling you guys to work on your business. This is a great time to jump in. The crisis was going to make you stronger on the outside, because you will know your numbers and you will have a better understanding. And once you kind of settled in and have your routine, then really spend your time doing the forecasting, doing the numbers, getting your KPIs set up, so that you'll also know when things are starting to turn for recovery. And that it will also be encouraging, because as leader, you need to be that person that's keeping your team encouraged, because they're going to get fearful if there's going to be impact on their jobs.
Yeah, we did have a lot of questions. Beth Jones had talked about there is legislation going around right now, and you want to look, and that affect labor laws, obviously, and what you're required in terms of sick leave, and what happens if somebody gets infected, and what you're required, and do you pay unemployment taxes? There's a lot of legislation going on that, frankly, if all of it passes and they reduce the numbers to impact small businesses, that is going to have a huge impact. I'm not the duty expert on that, but that's one of the reasons we're bringing Todd Newton in tomorrow to talk on Facebook more about that. But the bottom line is you all are going to need to stay in touch with your state and local agencies to find out how that is going to impact you. I think the biggest things is, this is happening everywhere. So Fatima says we've had all our reservations canceled, pretty scary. That's pretty much probably everybody's feeling at the moment. We did have a couple people saying that their daycare clients are still coming. And again, this is an opportunity. If you only do lodging, this is going to have a huge impact on you. Obviously, you need to ask yourself and your team, what else can you offer? So we had Rachel asked, people are being tight right now with money, understandably. So grooming, day stays, even training is being cut from right now from their budgets on top of travel. Any ideas to supplement income? We are going to do a whole Facebook Live tomorrow. I don't know what time yet. I'll be doing that. I have to figure out the time, but we'll post it and send out an email later, so you'll see that. But we do have some ideas on how to generate revenue, and we'll talk about that in a totally separate post. I can tell you that you have to talk to your clients to find out what they're willing to do, though. For everybody who is trying to cut money, if you're a small business owner like the Dog Gurus or like all of you guys, this is having a huge impact. If you have a different kind of job, this might not be affecting you at all. You might be getting your normal salary. They're just telling you to work at home. Or you might have a normal salary and you're still going to work. I mean, there's some people that this impacts everybody, but there's some people that are being impacted financially more than others. So depending on your client base, you may have people that are perfectly willing to continue to bring their dog to daycare or have the funds to do that. I saw some folks yesterday in some daycare groups talking about the fact that they've actually had clients just say, my dog can't come because we're staying home, but still take our money out. We're still going to pay you, because they want to support the business. So it's not all doom and gloom, but what does have to happen is you do need to diversify. If you're not doing any kind of opportunity for other than lodging, this is a time to decide, maybe this is a time that you do something creative. If people aren't coming to your facility, someone had posted, I think it was Victoria, I can't remember where. Okay, so here we go. Someone had posted, Victoria had posted, my dog walking clients want us to continue, but my employees and clients both are nervous about coming into their home for pickup, trying to come up with a zero contact pickup and drop off routine, which is awesome. So we've talked to a lot of people who are doing valet service now. The owner drives up, You go get the dog with your leash, your collar, the owner keeps their stuff, and you bring the dog in. So there's no contact where the owner has to come in. So that those types of procedures that might help your clients feel more comfortable, you want to look at those. So if talking to your clients, and I agree with Susan, this is a time to be picking up the phone to really find out, like, what is the nervousness of the client? Is it that they don't have time to come by and maybe you can pick the dog up? Is it that they don't want to come by and because they're afraid of walking in your facility, which then you can say, hey, instead of walking on our facility, we'll come out and get the dog. Like, and making sure that they understand the safety protocols that you're doing to keep your staff safe and to keep your facility clean, making sure you have those in place. And then are there other activities you can offer them? So there's a lot of things out there that, you know, you can try to capitalize those who are still able to pay and can and are looking for an outlet for their dog, because as somebody said, their dog is gonna, you know, they're gonna need an outlet for that dog if that dog is used to going to daycare or doing some kind of an activity during the day. So look at that. But the big thing, the big focus that we want to talk about is really don't just freak out, like really having the facts to say, this is how much money I'm losing. If I can cut these expenses or these fixed income rates or these, you know, I can lower these expenses, then I can still weather this storm. And then come June or whenever all of this starts to settle out, we're going to hit the ground running and we're going to have so much marketing ready to go. We're going to make up for all those losses. So really, really look at your numbers. This is one of those times where numbers are so critical to help you figure out what you're actually doing. The other thing I will say, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, but we are looking at the Dog Gurus at some opportunities. I know one of the big things people are talking about is go on, create some online activities for your clients. And if you can create some kind of a membership where they can, you know, access something that you have, where you've given them tools to play with their dog at home or enrichment activities at home. Like some of those ideas I think are great. I know some people don't have a trainer on staff to do that or don't have the means or the time or the energy. And so we are actually looking at an opportunity where we have a trick training program. We basically pulled all of the things that we've done in the past into one trick training program, and we'll allow you guys to sell that. And then you sell it for whatever you want to sell it for. And then you tell us who wants to sign up from your pet parents, and then we will put them on our LMS. We obviously need to cover our costs because there's a cost for us to put people on our LMS, but we were going to say, pay us $25 a person so that we're covering our admin and our LMS costs for that, but you charge whatever you want. So you're going to see more about that. If that's something you're interested in, just send us a private message or whatever. That's a course we would normally charge $99 for. So you can publicize that. The class is all taught by me. I'm a certified professional trainer. So we have good quality videos on just some fun stuff they can do with their dogs. So we're going to talk more about that tomorrow as well as an opportunity. And all you have to do is advertise it. We'll take care of actually giving them the content, putting the content on our website, all that. So that's an opportunity. We're trying to figure out all the logistics of that, but I think we can make that happen, and hopefully some of you can make money that way as well. So, all right, let me go through the notes. Susan, do you want to talk about some of the resources real quick while I go through the notes?
Yeah, well, someone did ask what time we were going on with Todd tomorrow, and that will be at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. So that's when we're going on. SBA loans, I think that was posted in the chat, the link to SBA loans, find out about that as far as regular and even disaster assistant loans.
I do see that. Greg posted links to that. The SBA loan, the disaster one, does rely on your state being a state of emergency, which many states have now declared states of emergencies. One of the reasons states do that is so that they get extra funding. So keep an eye on that. So that's a good option if you do need a loan. Proposed legislation. This was the legislation. If you want to go, oh, you can't see the whole note. But if proposed legislation HR 6201, and it's in the chat box, is that legislation that we were talking about earlier that may affect small businesses in terms of unemployment and what you're required to pay, sick leave and that kind of thing. So keep an eye on that. So let's see. Our communication letter to clients helped so much. Very few cancellations. So Cindy, I guess, obviously sent out an email, and I would be talking to your clients about all of this and what's going on, and making sure. Somebody had asked earlier, should we offer boarding and with a 20% rate discount right now? So Susan and I are generally not big on discounts, but this might be one of those times where I would say cash, if you really need the cash flow, then maybe look at saying, if you buy the gift card for this much, we'll give you this much value. The reason I like doing it that way, so in other words, let's say Susan mentioned this earlier, they buy $100 gift card, you give them $120 in value. So you get the cash still, instead of saying, we want to sell you this for $100, but you're going to pay 20% less. See what I'm saying? Like, your cash flow is better if you do it the other way Susan mentioned. But I would say that cash flow wise, that if you need cash flow, this is a good opportunity to say that, and say, I would also put some kind of expiration date to say, like, we need to use this within the year or whatever. I wouldn't make it an indefinite, use it whenever you want, but I do think this is an opportunity. That's an opportunity to collect more deposits and more payments up front. And again, from those people who may financially not be getting impacted by this, they might take advantage of that. Let me just see if there's other notes here. So Sandy Modell, what's the best online platform for interactive classes and workshop? That's a great question. In terms of, because the Dog Gurus, we have used multiple online platforms. Some work really well with your CRM, and then they link to WordPress, which is what we tend to use for our Facebook page. I can't even talk anymore, guys. For our website, there's a lot out there. We've used Memberium, which is great. We now use something called Docebo, which is a professional LMS, which is at a price point that I would not use for a smaller facility, individual facility. But honestly, what I would tell you, if you're doing this to as fast as possible put content out there, I would use Facebook. I would just go create a Facebook group, add people who have access to whatever it is you're going to provide, and do it there. That's what I would do. I would just keep it as a private Facebook group where you can control who has access, because that costs you nothing and it's easy to set up. So that's what I would do. That's really one of the easiest platforms out there. I typically wouldn't say as a long-term solution, I wouldn't recommend that, but for a lot of reasons, most of which you don't have control over Facebook. But for this type of situation, I would do Facebook, because it's free, it's easy, and it's relatively easy for your clients to access it. Posh Paw Resort, their valet, they worked so awesome. So that's great, where you're not having as much interaction with your clients because they're not coming in. So good testimonial that might be a route to go. Joyce was asking what you're charging for valet, and that's a great question. I think you might want to do it for free. You might want to charge if you're making it mandatory, then I wouldn't charge anything for it. So that would just be my take on it. You could charge for it if you've got like everybody coming and they don't care, and you're just going to do that as a VIP option. Typically, that's how I would present it to your staff, to your clients. But if you're doing it more because it's coronavirus time and this is how we're going to encourage people to come, I wouldn't charge for it all in that situation. So Sandy said, what about Zoom? Zoom is also a great, if you guys have not used Zoom, it's a online teleconference, immediate response kind of thing, where you can create a Zoom room, and then you give them the link to that Zoom room and they can log in. You could actually teach a class that way. So yeah, Zoom, I think Zoom is awesome. And the Dog Gurus, we use Zoom for all of our calls, team-wise, and for our member calls. Someone just told me this morning, I don't know who, I think it might have been one of my team members, said that Zoom is actually offering free accounts now right now. So yeah, I would definitely say Zoom, for especially like teaching classes where you want everybody to come on at a certain time, is a great option. If it's more of like, I'm going to post this and you can go look at it whenever, you could still use Zoom for that. But that's more of what I would use Facebook for. All right, so I will let Susan answer. Ruth Logan said, should we advertise that we're open for business, and if so, where?
Wherever your clients are. So that's knowing where your existing clients and, new people may be. It may be Facebook, it may be online through Google, other social media. Anything that's free, I would use. I would tell existing clients and remind them of your referral programs, especially when you get back in business. But yeah, you can't tell them too many places.
So Anna said, this is an interesting question. We had scheduled a price adjustment to roll out in April. Clearly, we don't want to do that now. Should we let clients know that was going to happen, but we'll delay until June? That's a good question. I don't think I would. I think I would just focus more on everything else and encouraging them to attend. I don't know, Susan, what are your thoughts on that?
We had another member ask about that this morning because they already had their printing done for a rate increase. And what we talked about was they went ahead and announced it, but said they weren't going to, that if anybody booked and made a reservation now for the next 2 weeks, they would still honor current rate, because again, that would let you know how many dogs to count on so you could staff appropriately and also give people an opportunity to buy packages. So it's really up to you. I don't think I would announce it now and then say it's now not going to be effective till June. If you've already decided to delay it and you don't have any other reason to announce it now, I would just wait and announce it when you would normally do it.
Yeah, and then we did post in the link my husband is frantically keeping up with all questions. So he posted the Zoom link in there for if you want to get a Zoom link or a Zoom account. There was somebody else I was going to ask their question. Oh, so this came up in a lot of Facebook groups yesterday. So Julie and Gray Moorhead actually emailed me. So Gray, I'm going to reply to your email. I just haven't had a chance yet this morning because I know you emailed me some stuff about this. So is anyone wiping down dogs in case infected human has sneezed or coughed on the dog's hair? Theoretically, the dog hair could be a formite. Formite meaning it can carry the virus. Not that the dog would get sick and not that you're catching it, so to speak, from the dog, but theoretically, if I have coronavirus, which I don't, I'm just using that as an example, but if I'm sick and I love on my dog and sneeze on him, theoretically, those droplets could be on my dog's fur. And then if my dog went over to my husband and my husband hugged on him, he theoretically could inhale that germ and then catch it. So, which frankly is my husband, we're living together. We're probably already infecting each other. But the point is, some people have been concerned about should they be wiping dogs down. AVMA, the American Veterinarian Medical Association, they have said that is possible, that it could be possible. Now, CDC says you can't catch it from a dog, which means the dog does not carry the coronavirus and then infect a human that way. But they have also said it is possible. And then the primary means of transmission of this virus is through sneezing and coughing, like directly inhaling somebody who sneezed and coughed in you. That's why we all are supposed to be 6 feet from each other. But the CDC has also said if your droplets land on a hard surface or some surface, and then you touch that and then you touch your face, you could get it that way too. So to answer Julie's question, because there's a lot of people who are like, you don't need to do that. Dogs can't catch it. You should do that. Here's what I say. I would recommend, if it makes your clients more comfortable, I would do it. This is more about you could be right. You could be right in arguing this can't possibly happen. You could be right. I don't care. I would still do it. If your owners are going to feel more comfortable because you're telling them we're wiping all the dogs down, I would do it just to make your owners more comfortable. So we could argue all day long whether you need to do it or not. And the reality is nobody really knows because this is a brand new virus. So, but the reality is AVMA actually says a dog could be a formite. So, but for me, I would be saying if my customers are happier, I'm going to do it. So I do know, Julie, a lot of people who are doing it. I know some that aren't. And again, I think that goes into like how you're communicating with your clients and what you think is going to be important to them. So anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, misinformation on that. Steve Dale, who is he's a media in the dog world. He's also a behaviorist. He's posted an article on his blog that actually links to the AVMA article and has quotes in there. So, definitely look at that if you have questions about that, because there's a lot of stuff going on out there about that. All right. So lots of comments on like how people are wiping down, and some are using hydrogen peroxide, some are using wipes, some are using rescue for leashes and collars. So lots of good ideas there. All right. So I think last minute, Susan and I need to get going to plan some other stuff. Just a reminder that those links are out there for the SBA loan, for disaster assistant loans, Kiva, which Susan mentioned earlier. Kiva is an organization in the United States that allows you to post a need out there and allows individuals to loan you money in small increments. So it's KIVA, and that link is in the notes as well. And then keep in touch with your local bank and state government for resources that your state might have, that your chamber might have, and obviously that as the laws continue to change, that might become available. So really, really keep a pulse on that as well. Okay, hopefully that helped. We will post this on our website as soon as everything goes live with it on Facebook. And that resources available for you there is thedoggurus.com/COVID-19. Just a ton of free resources we're trying to compile. If you have ideas for that webpage, send them our way and we will add, whatever we think will help our community right now. And tomorrow we're going to have more information about some revenue generating ideas that you can do to help generate some more revenue with all the losses and cancellations that are happening. So we will keep you posted on that. All right. Any last words, Susan?
And we're also doing the call with Todd tomorrow on staffing issues.
Yep. Call tomorrow from a person who does PEO stuff for all kinds of industries. So hopefully that'll be helpful as well. We will email that link and time and everything as soon as I get a chance to do that. All right. Thank you guys. If you have questions, feel free to PM us. You can email me at robin@thedoggurus.com, susan@thedoggurus.com, support@thedoggurus.com, email anything at thedoggurus.com. We'll try to help you out. And keep your head up, keep going. We're going to get through this. Don't freak out too much, and hug your dog and take them for a walk. Get out in nature while you're self-isolating. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.